Get that fucking trash out of your life. You have legacies to build. We grew that business from 3.4 million to 17.1. Horsepower, not horse shit. You want to be the parent that's an ally. They don't need another fucking friend. Not everybody's cup of whiskey. Toughest advice for the toughest businessmen. Be relentless. Today is your iPhone making you sick? Interesting question that I've done a lot of deep research on. I only play a medical doctor and a psychologist and a therapist on these righteous morning walking and talking videos. But I've done a lot of research over the last 20 plus years. Worked with a lot of athletes, worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, worked with a lot of teenagers, young adults. And ever since 2009, when Steve Jobs introduced the smartphone, it wasn't the flip phones, it's in 2009-ish when the smartphones were launched onto society, that we started seeing the toxic and negative effects that we're seeing today. I have always said that when it comes to cell phones, it's only a matter of time until there's warnings on them, like there are on packages of cigarettes, packages of tobacco today. The problem with warnings on cell phones, there'll be warnings about, children under a certain age not using a cell phone, not using a cell phone around, infants, all this kind of stuff, the same as tobacco. It'll be long and far too late. By the time the regulators get around to this, they're already 20 years behind the times. And since 2009, the facts of the matter speak loudly, and still nothing is done. And so many people, so many parents, so many adults are so misinformed. Like, it's nothing to go to a restaurant and see a couple having dinner and they hand their baby a cell phone, their cell phone, to entertain themselves. So literally, a child that's 6 months old, a year old, maybe 2 years old, and here they are on a cell phone. Or we'll see it in Naples all the time, where you'll sit down at a fine dining restaurant, and what's the first thing mom and dad break out? The iPads for all of the kids. 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 9-year-olds, all on their iPads for the entire 2 hours. On their iPad when they're eating, not conversing with anybody, completely checked out. And of course, that's child neglect. I don't give any parent any excuse if you don't know and research what you're doing for your children. It's the same as giving them a drink of alcohol or buying them alcoholic drinks during that dinner. It's the same as handing them a package of cigarettes and lighting a cigarette for them day after, one after another. Worse, a lot worse than tobacco, a lot worse than drugs, or a lot worse. And I call a lot of this manufactured mental illness. My daughter we were driving home from school the other day, and my daughter Emery was saying, she said, "Daddy, is it just me, or is everybody claiming they're mentally ill the last 2 years?" In her classroom, her old classroom in Naples, about 80% of the children were diagnosed with mental illness. This is a private school, and over 80% of the children are diagnosed with some form of mental illness. They're medicated, They're sedated, they're taking pills at school, they can't sit, they can't read, they can't speak to the teacher properly, they can't learn 80% of that classroom. And then we've noticed here that it's no different. It's no different. My friend, the great Dan Lazonis, the world's greatest math teacher, he noticed 10 years ago, he works with, children anywhere from the age of 5 right up to 20 and doing math coaching one-on-one in group sessions. He will no longer work with kids privately, like he works with my daughter Emery privately. He won't work with kids who are screened, who are on screens most of the day, because their attention span is so small, their behavior is so poor, that he insists that the parents de-screen the child. He no longer work with students who have a 3-second, 7-second attention span. Manufactured mental illness. There's some interesting facts that should shock and warn us, related to the launch of the smartphone in 2019 or 2009. One of the most amazing stories is when a reporter from the Harvard Business Journal asked Steve Jobs a few years after the smartphone and the iPhone and the iPad were introduced. He was asked by the reporter about, his house, and the reporter was expecting, like his home to be tech heaven. I mean, Steve Jobs, this must be tech heaven. Everybody must be sitting around on iPads and using the cutting edge technology. And he said, we don't have any of it inside our home. He said, my children have zero exposure to screens. My children don't have any exposure to iPads, iPhones. And, I give the guy credit for being candid and open and honest. He wanted he would not allow his children to be anywhere near his toxic invention. That's the old tobacco barons. That's the old alcohol barons. That's the cocaine, high-level cocaine dealer today who sells but doesn't go near his or her product. That's very, very common. Very, very common. They sell the disease. They sell the addiction. They're today's tobacco barons, but personally, they have nothing to do with it. That sweetheart Zuckerberg, the founder and creator, maybe, of Facebook, was asked by a reporter one time about, Facebook and how much he uses it and his children with technology. And he answered the same as Jobs. He said, my children have no exposure to screens. They have no cell phones. They have no iPads. They go to schools with no technology. They attend the Silicon Valley schools, by the way, some of the richest big tech people in the world. And these schools, 20 years ago, private schools started popping up in Silicon Valley. And guess what type of schools they are? They're schools where there's low to no tech. In other words, their children aren't being told at age 5 to show up with an iPad. Their parents aren't being told to that their kids are going to be taught on a so-called smart board. No. Pen, paper, cursive writing, all the old school learning ways. So massive hypocrites. And they're open about it. They're like, I sell that disease. I sell these toxic products. But personally, I don't use them and don't let them anywhere near my family. So that kind of stuff should be very revealing to you as it is to me. Like if a guy like Zuckerberg or a guy like Jobs or a guy like Cook has nothing to do, especially their children, had nothing to do with the big tech that they've launched onto society, that should be an idea of the way you should be approaching it personally with your children and with your grandchildren. So there's some interesting results that are now starting. We're 20 years into this, right? 10. We're about 15 years into the smartphone. So all of a sudden, we're starting to see what I call the delayed consequences. The delayed consequences that, you know, the regulators want to keep hidden. They want to delay for as long as possible. But the big one is the massive amounts of what's called EMF radiation. EMF radiation is radiation that we get from screens, from microwaves, from those massive Wi-Fi towers, those massive 5G towers. We walked by the 5G tower that they put up in the city of Naples earlier this year, and literally you're within a block of it, and all you can hear and feel is this humming and this vibration. And I said to my friend at the time, I said, wouldn't you love to work under that all day? There's all kinds of businesses and offices, some apartments. And literally this 5G tower in the middle of the downtown is literally humming and literally vibrating. Well, it's probably nothing, right? It's probably nothing. Same thing when I tell my wife, Krista, she used to wear those earbuds. And I'm like, so what you're essentially doing is you're taking an earbud that's using Wi-Fi or 5G, and it's emitting EMF radiation at its core, and you're putting that in your ear, maybe a few inches from your brain. And I don't use them. Fuck that. There's no way I'm sticking that stuff in my ear, in my body, inside my brain. There's no way. And the reason I've made that decision is because brain cancer linked to massive amounts. We're talking 100 times, 100x more EMF radiation today in 2023. You and me and our children are exposed to over 100 times more EMF radiation than people 30, 40 years ago. Everything from microwaves to cell phones to laptops to anything like that. But here's the link. There was a study done recently at Berkeley University, and there's a link, 60% increase in brain cancer linked to this type of exposure to radiation. 60% increase in brain cancer in the last handful of years. Well, that shouldn't be surprising when you're putting earbuds beside your brain that are emitting this radiation. You've got 5G, you've got Wi-Fi, you've got this radiation everywhere. And the reality is, smartphones aren't going anywhere. You're not going to give up your phone. You're not going to go without a phone like I do. What you're going to do is, I think it's very critical that a person learns to do without their phone for periods of time every single day, to give your body and your mind and your soul a break from this toxic radiation. So it's not just what comes with the phone. What comes with the phone is exposure to some of the most toxic information on the planet, right? That phone is now a gateway to the most toxic news. It's a gateway to anti-social media. It's a gateway to vomit politics. It's a gateway to instant pornography, instant gambling. Our children have exposure to anything they want through these phones. It's like taking your 12-year-old or your 10-year-old and dropping them off in the meanest part of the city of Chicago and saying, have a good time. I'll pick you up in 3 or 4 hours. That's literally what handing a cell phone to a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old is the equivalent of. And good, woo! I like the Blue Wings coat. Nice. So it's amazing. Tom was at my birthday dinner last night. It's amazing that people just don't get it. Parents just don't get it. And ignorance is no excuse. So what I do is I've learned to leave my cell phone alone for hours and sometimes days at a time, just to give my body and my mind and my soul a break from these EMF radiation exposures. I can't stop it because it's everywhere. These towers are around, you know, Wi-Fi, microwaves, all this stuff. But yes, you can control the controllables. And what's worked for me is half-day discipline, what I call half-day discipline. So I don't check my cell phone till at least 11 a.m. each day. So what that looks like is I'm going 12, 14 hours a day, because the night before I shut down my phone, usually around 4 o'clock, sometimes 5 o'clock. And I do not look at use my phone after I get home at night unless I'm completely there by myself. I just shut it off. So I don't have any of that exposure from, let's say, 6 p.m., 5 p.m., all through the evening, and none of that exposure before bed. And then all of a sudden, you know, you sleep better, you have better rest, all of those things. And then it's amazing. You get up the next morning and my cell phone is still locked away. I don't have any ambition to go and check it or anything like that. And I do my deep work. I do my morning walk. The only thing I use my broken iPhone for is for these videos. And sometimes I shoot these in the morning. Sometimes I'll shoot them in the afternoon. But once I'm done these videos, I put the phone away. I don't check anything. And this exposure is bad enough. But I'm willing to face the consequences of that because I want to influence 1 million men. So that's the reason that I have to use something to shoot videos. So I face those consequences. So after I shoot these videos, my phone goes away again, usually till about lunchtime. On a Saturday, it'll go away to sometimes for the whole day. On a Sunday, sometimes until the afternoon. And I just think it gives you a mental break from it all. I think it gives you an emotional break, a spiritual break, whatever you want to call it. And I get all my reading done, my copywriting done, my deep thinking. You call that, if you want to call that your magic time, your deep work time. And then after I've got the important done, what I do then is I'll turn on my cell phone around lunchtime and I'll check in and then I'll plan my afternoon. So what have I done? I've won the morning. I've got my reading, my writing, my walking done. I've got my deep work done. I've made an appointment with myself and got the needle done. I've done Operation Money Suck. I've done my road work and I've sharpened the axe with my reading. So then the rest of the day is gravy. The rest of the day is gravy. There's no money in returning emails. There's no money in returning text messages. there's no money in any of that stuff, somebody else's agenda. So I'll eat my lunch and I'll have usually a short rest. I have a nap every day, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, no more than 30 minutes, just like my dad. And then I'm recharged for the day. So then I do what I call billionaire batching. And batching is when you put everything together in a bucket and you do just that until it's done. So instead of flittering around all day and, jump every time there's a beep or a tweet, I jump. I'm in complete control. In other words, I don't check my phone until lunch, and then after lunch, I do the billionaire batching where I put all of the emails together. I'll sit down and I'll set a timer for 30 minutes. And I'll literally sit on the back deck or out by the pool or on the boat, and I'll return every email. I'll reply to every important email, and I'm done in half an hour. All my emails, and the timer goes, I'm done. And then after that, I'll take a short break and I'll batch all of my phone messages. Maybe I have one, maybe I have two, maybe I have three, and I'll do all my phone calls in one batch, which is usually another, 15 to 45 minutes. And if there's any text messages, which is very few, there's less than 20 people on this planet that have my cell number, I'm done. So I'm done around 1:30, 2 o'clock. I do some more studying, I do some more reading, I check in with Marc Andre, with Leanne, and then by 3 o'clock, 3:30, I'm ready to leave and go pick up my daughter. But that billionaire batching keeps me away from the phone, keeps me away from the radiation, keeps me away from the addiction of it all. And then, as I said, on the weekends, I love to leave my phone off. I love to leave my phone off for the entire day, check it at 5 o'clock, and then put it away for the night. But I really think that these breaks are advantageous. I think they're critical for my soul, for my mind, for my mental health, my physical health. And I think that it limits my EMF radiation exposure. I also like living in the country. Like where we live here in Canada, we're not right under a 5G or Wi-Fi tower. So our exposure has been greatly reduced living in rural areas. But if you find that your iPhone is making you sick, if you find that your iPhone is making your queen or your children or your grandchildren sick, as the leader of your family, do you not think it's time that you stepped in and led the way? Like, is it not been a long enough that you understand that we're the fucking product? Okay, you're Tim Cook's bitch at Apple. We were Steve Jobs' bitch. Those guys make millions and billions of dollars on the back of manufactured mental illness. And then Big Pharma steps in after that and medicates our children, medicates our teenagers, medicates our adults, because look at all the side effects. They have no attention span, 3 seconds, 7 seconds. They can't sit still. They can't sleep properly at night. I mean, our youth, our adult population, one of the biggest challenges we have right now is everybody's so tired. We don't sleep anymore. Well, why the hell do you think you don't sleep? Why do you think teachers can't teach? They look out into their classroom at 9 o'clock in the morning and half of the students are asleep at their desks. Why do you think that is? That's because of the fact that they have so much exposure to blue light and screens that, they're up to 1 in the morning, they're up to 2 in the morning on their screens in their bedrooms. They're getting 3 or 4 hours sleep, and then they're heading back to school or heading to work. They're exhausted mentally and physically and emotionally. And then all of a sudden, you you're not feeling well, all of a sudden they're tired, all of a sudden they're depressed, all of a sudden they're suffering from anxiety. No shit, Sherlock. You're on your phone 18 hours a day. You're on a fucking screen for 2/3 of your life. You know, there's going to be consequences. So I think the addiction is so strong. I think that the Silicon Valley boys and gals have done such an incredible job of making this product as addictive as cocaine, as addictive as tobacco, more addictive than booze, that the only thing we can do is cut the umbilical cord for hours at a time. So last night I went out for my birthday dinner in the city, and I invited a couple of friends, and my wife Krista set it up. Do you know we left our house at 5:15 p.m. last night for dinner, and I left my cell phone at home, and when I got home at 11 p.m. last night, I went straight to bed. And when I'm walking here, this is the first time I've turned on this phone. I've had my birthday dinner. I went into the city. I drove home. And we sat at that table last night for 3 hours with two of my world building mastermind members, Jeff Dean and Tom Burns, who are neighbors of mine on the lake. And not one cell phone came out in 3 hours. We sat at that table and we talked about life, we talked about sports, we talked about business, we talked about our families, we talked about children, we talked about everything. And in 3 hours at that table, plus the hour drive there, plus the hour back, not one person had their cell phone out. And that's the environment that we've created. I won't have lunch with somebody who has their phone out. I won't have a cup of coffee with somebody who's on their phone. I won't have dinner with somebody who's on their phone. Because that just says to me, you know what? What's in my phone is more important. When you're on your phone and your kid makes what I call a bid for connection, they come out and you're sitting there on your laptop or you've got your head buried in something in your phone, and your child makes a bid for connection and you just blow them off. I mean, it's not long until you're sending the message to them that whatever's in your phone is more important than them. And that's fucking weak leadership. That is underfathered. That is underfathered leadership. If your wife walks up and makes a bid for connection, puts her hand on your shoulder, maybe she says something to you, maybe she offers to talk about something, or she's making dinner and you know you're stuck over in the corner on your dumb phone. And these bids for connection are made constantly by our children, our teenagers, our queens. And if you're sitting there scrolling your ass away and you turn down enough of those bids for connection, then all of a sudden you're disconnected, right? You're disconnected from your queen, you're disconnected from your children. And then if Jobs does the job properly, if Cook's Talk technology does Zuckerberg's technology does what it's supposed to do, it's not long till you're disconnected from yourself. You're disconnected from yourself. You can no longer think. You can no longer focus. You can no longer be present. You can no longer be happy. You can no longer have any peace of mind. All because of that electronic toy, that electronic gadget in your hand. Pathetic surrender. So if you're going to get control of this, you need a lock box as well at the front door, where all of these gadgets get locked when everybody comes home. 5 o'clock, put it away. Don't think that you're strong enough. Don't use your willpower up on that nonsense. Well, I'm just gonna turn it on airplane mode. That just means you're not serious. When you come home at 5 o'clock, you should have a lockbox at the door or a safe like I use. Power it down and lock it away like you put your car keys away, and that's it. That's it for the night. And then you can grab it on the way out the next morning after you've done your morning routine, and you can take your phone to work with you and do what you want. But start giving yourself these breaks. On your date night, leave your phone at home. You go to a basketball game, leave your phone at home. You go to dinner like we did last night, leave your phone at home and start leaving it at home half an hour. You go to the grocery store, leave your phone at home. You go and pick up your kid at school, leave your phone at home. Start with 15 minutes because your addiction's so strong, you're gonna feel weird, you're gonna feel strange. That should scare the fucking shit out of you, that you feel naked and you feel strange that you don't have an electronic toy in your hand. Well done, Steve Jobs. I congratulate you. I mean, Steve Jobs has done it. I mean, Apple has done it. Big tech has done it. Those guys have invented the new tobacco. 10x the new tobacco. So start 15 minutes, 30 minutes, then leave it for an hour. Then make a rule in your life. I'm not going to touch my phone for the first hour of the day. Then stretch it to 2 hours. Then stretch it to 3 and 4 hours like I do. And your life will transform. And then shut it off and be mentally present when you get home. I have a friend, Marcus Hanlon, who's in my World Builders Mastermind. He's got kids. He's got a beautiful wife. And about 6 months ago, Marcus said, fuck it, I'm out. I'm not going to support these pirates. I'm not going to be a bitch to big tech. I'm not going to put the knee pads on for Apple anymore. And he literally got rid of his iPhone and now he has one of those old school flip phones. That's it. And on his flip phone, he can phone people, old school, his kids have the number, and he can text message, and that's it. No email, no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, no LinkedIn, ridiculous, all of it. And now he can make a phone call if he needs to, and he can text if he has to, and that's it. And that was the point of a cell phone originally, to be used as a phone, not as an entertainment, not as a place where you can watch videos at work, not as a place that you can watch porn at school, not where you can sit and gamble when you're driving your car. So wise up is the message today. Wise up and lead your family. Wise up and lead your employees. I put lockers in all my businesses 10 years ago because I had enough of the lack of productivity. I'm paying somebody $20 an hour, $50 an hour, in some cases $200 an hour. And I said, I demand your mental attention and focus as well. You're not going to walk around here as a fucking drone and a zombie. You're not going to bring your manufactured mental illness into my hockey team or my barber shop or my insurance company. And I literally put lockers and I took away the phones. That's how strong the addiction was 10 years ago. What do you think it is today? You think you can tell them to keep it in their purse? You think you can tell him to put it on airplane? Are you kidding me? That's all they do is they shop online, check ESPN, poker.com, porn, kids 15 times in a morning, texting their kids, their drinking buddies, everything but working for you. So I took them away. I took the iPhones away. They were making my employees sick. They were making my hockey players sick. So I cured the problem, at least when they were in my world. So my hockey players didn't have a phone for 5 hours, didn't have a phone for 6 hours. My employees didn't have a phone for 8 hours, 9 hours, only on a lunch break. And what did it do for my bottom line? It almost doubled my business. And we won a Barclay Cup, as I've shared many times with the hockey team, because we had by far the most focused team. Are you kidding me? All the other teams' players are texting and sending messages in the locker room before and during intermissions. My guys are dialed in for 6 hours, dialed in with each other for 6 hours. I don't allow cell phones in my masterminds. I don't allow them at my live events. I don't allow them anywhere. I've finally realized that they're making people sick, and I'm not going to allow it in my world. I can't control anything else, just in my world. But that dinner last night was glorious. That dinner was glorious. We looked like such outliers. We had the best table in the keg. We sat there and we talked, and we didn't have a cell phone anywhere to be seen. And you look around and everybody's doing the opposite, right? Bunch of tomato cans sitting around pretending that they're talking to each other. And here we are at our table, everybody fully present, all 6 people, adults acting as adults, talking about important things like our family and our health and our businesses and our stories, everybody mentally present. And same, like, it was so glorious. And that's what you can have in your life if you claim it. If you have the balls, the mental balls, to say, enough, enough. I've had enough of this fragmented focus. I've had enough of the manufactured mental health. I've had enough of the dark holes of unhappiness. I've had enough of the exposure to some of the most toxic information, images, videos, temptations on earth. Like I said, just drop your kid off in Chicago. Just drop your kid off in downtown Chicago. You're not going to show up as a father. You're not going to show up as a king. Just drop your kid off in some fucking alleyway in Chicago. That's the kind of parenting you're providing. Same thing for your queen. Your queen looks over and you're buried in your screen. Not long until she's buried in her screen. Hard to connect with a fucking zombie. And it's interesting because the guys that are the least distracted, Warren Buffett said it best. Warren Buffett said it best. He said, in his 91 years on this planet, Buffett says the most successful people he works with, the most successful people are the least distracted. The most successful people he's dealt with in multiple industries, the best of the best, are the least distracted. The billionaires are less distracted than the millionaires. The millionaires are less distracted than the general public, the great unwashed arses. Are you one of the general public, great unwashed arses? Walking around like everybody else? Walking around checked out mentally like everybody else, exhausted like everybody else, unhappy like everybody else, depressed like everybody else, busy like everybody else? It's your choice. Do what I do and start leaving them at home for large chunks of time. Start putting them in the lockbox when you get home. Start with 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 2 hours, and get to the point where you have the phone locked away more than you have it on. It positions you as a better authority. It makes you more valuable as a businessman. It makes you magnetic to money. The less time when I started not taking phone calls, when I shut off access to me as an entrepreneur, as an insurance broker, as an example, my income 5x'd instantly. All of a sudden, my time was respected. All of a sudden, I didn't take calls, I made calls. I didn't take calls, I make calls. Big difference in positioning. Makes you magnetic, makes people want to do business with you. You're not just average Joe who every time your phone rings or you get a bing, you jump like Pavlov's dogs. No, thank you. No, thank you. So that's the mission for today. Start leaving the phone. See how many things today you can do by just leaving your phone. Lock it away in a drawer, put it in the safe, put it in the lockbox. Go have a cup of coffee with a friend. Go have lunch with your queen. Go on a date night tonight. Go to a ball game with your kid and leave your phone at home. Oh, Michael, what if there's an emergency? Are you fucking joking? Are you kidding me? My parents are 90 years old. They raised 3 children without cell phones. We're still alive. You can still reach us. There's still landlines. But as far as the rest of it, just you're slowly killing yourself as it is. So yes, if you're on your phone all day, you are making yourself sick. And it's not the actual phone that's making you sick. They're not going anywhere. They're just going to get worse and worse. And if you don't get a handle on this soon, then you're going to have a mental health. You're going to be part of the mental health crisis that we're experiencing now. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Three second attention spans. That's just the start. 26% of the population diagnosed with mental illness as of today. That's just the start. That's just the start. It's only going to get 10, 20 times worse, 100 times worse from here. Wait till you see the delayed consequences of the exposure to radiation, to earbuds, to Wi-Fi, to all this stuff that people have no break from. Wow, man, it's coming. And you have to decide whether that's going to be part of your life, part of your future, or it's not. Or it's not. That's it. I have a couple of spots available in my World Builders Mastermind. I'm always looking to add a couple of high-level men or women each month, so I'm going to open the doors to my World Builders Mastermind. It's you go to badassworldbuilders.com and apply. Simple application. It's a group where we meet every 2 weeks online. We work on everything: marketing, money making, health, wealth, family. And it's probably the greatest investment you'll ever make in your marriage, in your business, in your bank account. Badassworldbuilders.com. I'm going to open the door for 5 days starting today. If you're interested in joining the mastermind, you're in there for 12 months. It's a 12-month commitment. You can start with the group in another 2 weeks. You need to apply. It's expensive on purpose. It's $9,997, and I only want serious entrepreneurs. If you're not serious about winning, if you're not serious about living life and doing business on your own terms, stay away from me. If you're one of these cell phone junkies, stay away from me. If you're suffering from manufactured mental illness, stay away from me. I don't want you anywhere near me. But if you're serious about improving every area of your life by a tiny, tiny fraction every day, if you're interested in creating the 2.0 of you, 2.0, the new version of you, the better version of you, then go to badassworldbuilders.com and apply. I'm going to open the doors, and then I'm going to slam the doors shut in 5 days. And then you'll be out of luck again. Like I said, this is for champions, not pretenders. It's for kings, not self-loathing poodles. Badassworldbuilders.com. Is your phone making you sick? Damn straight. So instead, do what I do what we do when you get home tonight. Hug your family, hug your queen, hug your children. If they're not at home, make sure you call them. They need to hear your voice every day. Not texting, not emailing. They need to hear your voice. If they're away at school or they're out of the house, make sure you call them every day. They need to hear your voice every day until they're at least age 30. Just to know that dad is there, the king is there, and that you are protecting them, you're thinking about them, and you're in their life. And tell your wife every day how much you love her and respect her. Leave her notes, send her messages, surprise her, give her flowers, date her, make her feel like the incredible, incredible person she is. Same thing for your children, just constantly be there. How do you spell love? Time. T-I-M-E. How do you spell love? T-I-M-E. Go home tonight, hug your wife, hug your children. You'll feel better. They'll feel better. And this world will be a much better place. 2 words that changed my life. 2 words that can change your life. Be relentless.